So I unfortunately have a profile on a dating website. Well, half dating, half friends. Either way, it's a site where you have about 5 or 6 profile pictures that are just meant to show what you look like. And I've got one, and I was looking at those pictures, and I thought to myself, wow, these are really dull and boring. What can I do to make them better? And I was thinking about what other people did. I was thinking about the Tinder-Fish, just the vague concept of people holding up fish to put it on their Tinder profile. That is like a staple within dating profiles, I guess. I don't know. I don't think I've ever actually seen it happen in real life, like in the wild. But I do know that it is a stereotype. And I know that people somewhat recently have started doing a trend of holding up things that are decidedly not fish, like rocks and whatnot, to like basically poke fun at the concept of the Tinder-Fish. And I was thinking about the fact that I have it listed on my profile that I do art, but I also don't have anything even remotely art related on the profile. And I was thinking to myself, well, I know how to make sculptures. And I think it would be kind of funny to have a Tinder-Fish that was very clearly not a fish. And so I went into this project with the constraints of I wanted it to very clearly, visually, not be a real fish. But I wanted to be like recognizably a fish. Like you could look at it and be like, that is meant to look like a fish, that is not a fish. And I wanted a project budget of around $0 and 0 cents. So I got some garbage from around my house, made myself a Tinder-Fish. I basically decided to do paper mache as how I would make the Tinder-Fish, because I wanted it to be about the size of a normal fish, but if I did it in pretty much any other medium, it would have been incredibly expensive. Or just so insanely time-consuming to do. So, paper mache seemed like the logical next step. We have a bunch of cardboard garbage all over our house all the time because I live with a bunch of roommates. And I figured, screw it. Might as well do something with it rather than just leave it in a landfill or whatever. So I basically made the skeleton of the fish out of old cardboard boxes, over which I would put paper mache. I've seen somebody else do it that way. I think they were making sharks, and I saw it on like either Instagram or YouTube. I don't know which one. I have no idea if that's just a one person does it that way kind of thing, or if that's like a normal, regular thing people do in paper mache. I don't usually use paper mache. I don't have a good reason for why not. I just haven't in the past. But I'd seen somebody else make something fish adjacent out of it, and the way I saw them doing it was putting it up on walls, so it made sense to have it be that it could, when I was done using it for the profile pictures, or profile picture singular, just put it up on the wall as like a wall decoration in our living room, because we're Gen Zers and we have like no decorations in our house. The massive ridges didn't really matter to me because I was putting paper mache over it, and I figured that would cover them for the most part anyway. I used what I think is pretty standard for paper mache. I just mixed flour, water, and multi-purpose glue in a little container. Overall, the project was like way easier than I expected it to be too. Like, it was so fast and easy. I understand why they have like kindergartners do paper mache. Albeit it did get a little messy at times, though I was not using school glue. I was using multi-purpose glue, which I don't think is generally advised for kindergartners. I also was definitely using far too much of the glue mixture at the beginning. You can see it dripping down throughout a lot of this. I pretty much slowly figured out how to do it as it went along. I built up in areas where there were a lot more of the like steep ridges, and I think I covered them about as well as I wanted to cover them. A little bit of texture was ideal for me just because living beings tend to have texture on them, and it's meant to be a fish. All things considered, despite being a quick and easy project, did take like 3 days because of the sheer amount of drying times it had, and that was slightly annoying in making it, but I doubt it would have taken nearly as long if you weren't as much of a perfectionist as I tend to be in this kind of thing. I came back to it and put more paper mache on top of it once it was like completely coated in paper mache like 3 or 4 times over the span of like several hours, and that absolutely made it take way longer than it necessarily needed to. Plus, I waited like overnight to dry it just in case. I got moisture trapped in there on accident with the acrylic paint and made it mold or whatnot because I thought that the chance of it molding was not a chance I really wanted to take. You never really want your wall decorations to be moldy. Once I let it completely dry, though, I added a base layer of just white paint to prime it and cover all of the many different patterns and pictures and words that were on the newspaper I used for the paper mache, because I really didn't want those showing through, and I didn't want to use the colored paint a bunch of different times. The colored paint isn't more expensive. I'm just mixing each color out of different colors of paint, and they sit out on a plate and will eventually dry if I take too long in painting with them. So the white paint felt safer and way less likely for me to need to redo the paint. I then used a graphite pencil and drew out all of the designs that I would want on the fish before doing them in paint so that I could erase them or change them around if I didn't like the way that they looked. Though I don't think I actually changed really anything at all. I went for kind of like a sky design to the fish because I've been really into sort of artistic interpretations of suns recently. I don't know why. You can see that I've also got henna on my hand in this video that's got like a sun with a face on it. I just like the idea of getting to draw a face without having to draw the shape of a head. What can I say? I'm just lazy. I also have seasonal depression, so sunshine, kinda my jam. Especially in sorta the last quarter of winter like it is right now. I am a huge fan of sorta sunshiny, summery motifs at this point. And if I'm gonna spend a long time doing a stupid little project, I'm gonna do something that brings me joy. And what brings somebody joy quite like not having depression. I swapped back and forth between a smaller brush doing the finer details and a larger brush to cover like the bigger parts of the fish's body. And I kind of stuck with that system for doing pretty much the whole fish. I really only used pretty much 2 brushes and nothing else, which is overall almost definitely a good thing, because ADHD brain will not let me clean my brushes nearly as much as I definitely should clean them. I also used very few different colors within the fish, and I think that helped quite a bit in not needing to use more than just 2 brushes. Because if I was using a lot of different colors within different sections, I would almost definitely have wanted more brushes than I had. But I stuck to pretty solid blocks of color the whole way through, because the shape of the actual object itself gives it about as much texture as I would really want it to have. Aside from the eyes, which I am a little bit sad about the fact that I did not make more textured, but I couldn't think of how to do that within Paper Mache, and I really didn't want to use another medium to build up sections of texture. So I just sort of stuck with painting it on. And it doesn't look bad, it's just not exactly what I wanted. But nothing really is ever exactly what you want it to be in art anyway. Mediums and like just things that are completely out of your control are always going to change the outcome of your art. And if you're expecting perfectly exactly what you want it to be every time, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. That being said, I do regularly set myself up for disappointment, so I'm completely and utterly not above that at all. But I do think I am still pretty happy with the results of this project. I don't think I would go back and change anything if I could. It's a pretty solid attempt for a first try of doing paper mache since I was like probably about kindergarten age, and I would strongly recommend anybody watching this who's even a little bit artsy to consider trying it out. Just doing a little paper mache. Sometimes the best kind of art to do is kindergarten art. It really was super cheap and pretty frickin' fun to do. I will probably be doing more paper mache projects in the future, because I thoroughly enjoyed making my Tinder-Fish, even if I am mostly just making it for the fun of making a fish. Sometimes you just gotta find the dumbest excuses to keep making art, because what else are you gonna do? Not make dumb excuses to make dumb art? That'd be dumb. Though I will say this video is not an endorsement of the concept of dating sites or the use of like acrylic paint, because I'm aware it's straight up just plastic. I'm just incredibly cheap. There is plastic in my blood. There might as well also be plastic in my art. That being said, do as I say, not as I do. I'm an idiot. I do not make good decisions, like ever. I've been struggling a lot with artistic burnout the last few months, and dumb little projects like this have been my absolute crutch this whole way through, of kind of convincing myself that, yes, I do genuinely actually like art. I just kinda pushed myself way too hard. And this can still be fun, just not the way I've been doing it. When you get into trying to make art into like a career or a livelihood, you tend to get very caught up in like what I should be doing and what I have to do to like move forward or get ahead, and it's really easy to lose sight of what you want to be doing or what you think would be fun to do, especially while the world is the way that it is. And I am by no means like successfully making a career in doing art right now. I just kind of am choosing not to focus on that as much as I necessarily like my brain would want me to. 'Cause if I spend the entire time kind of sitting here shaking like, "Oh good god, I'm not doing as much as I could or should be doing," I'm gonna have a miserable time the whole way through. And that's no fun for anybody. So, part of my personal choice of betting on myself in doing art is just choosing to have projects that are just dumb fun, that are just reminding me that I like doing art, that art is cool and fun and nice to do, and worth betting on myself for. And now that I've finished all of the painting, I covered the whole fish in several layers of Mod Podge just to kind of give it a shiny coating. Because fish are shiny. And it's done. Now all that's left is to take the profile pictures. I am probably only going to use one of these on my profile, but I'm pretty stoked with the way they came out. I took these photos by taking a video, and I'll show you only an itty bitty tiny clip of it. But pretty great video though. And this is his final resting spot on my wall. I'm pretty happy with my little fish friend here, and I'm also pretty happy with my inaugural real YouTube video. If any singular person has stuck with me this long, thank you. If you're still here, that probably means you liked it or hated it so much you needed to see the rest of it. Either way, consider subscribing. You could see more of things like this. Probably. Maybe. If I make more. That'll depend on whether or not anybody sees this.